The old house at the end of Morrow Lane had been abandoned for years. The locals said it was cursed, that whoever lived there met an untimely end, but when Josh moved into town, he dismissed it as just another ghost story. He was new, eager to fit in, and eager to prove. He wasn't afraid of old myths. The house stood crooked and dark, with peeling paint and ivy creeping up its rotting walls. Josh couldn't deny it had an eerie charm, a gothic kind of beauty, even in its decay. But one thing stuck with him: the persistent feeling that he was being watched, even from the street. At night, when he walked past it on his way home, the windows seemed to flicker with light, though he knew no one lived there. He told himself it was just a trick of the shadows, the trees, the passing cars. But every night, as he neared the house, the hairs on the back of his neck would stand on end. One evening, Josh couldn't take it anymore. He decided to go inside, to see what all the fuss was about. It was late, a thick fog rolling in off the river, the air damp and cold. The house loomed ahead, its broken porch steps creaking under his weight as he approached the front door. The door was unlocked. Inside, the house was suffocating. Dust hung in the air, thick as smoke, and the floorboards groaned underfoot, as if the house was alive and aware of his presence. The hallway stretched endlessly, its walls lined with faded, yellowed wallpaper. But the strangest thing? The silence. It felt like the house was holding its breath, waiting. Josh explored room after room, empty, save for a few moth-eaten curtains and broken furniture, until he reached the back of the house. In the very last room at the end of a narrow hallway, he found it. A massive, full-length mirror, its frame ornate, gold, and cracked. It was the only thing untouched by time in the entire house. As Josh stepped closer, he saw something in the reflection that made his blood run cold. It wasn't his reflection. A woman stood behind him, pale and gaunt, her hair tangled and matted. Her eyes were wide, unblinking, staring right through him. She had been there, just standing behind him, her lips parted in a silent scream. Josh spun around, heart hammering, but no one was there. He backed away from the mirror, his breath shallow. And that's when he saw the name etched into the glass, faint and nearly illegible. Marion. Before he could move, a sharp, ice-cold wind swept through the room, slamming the door shut. The temperature dropped, and Josh could see his breath fog in His heart raced. He tried the door. It wouldn't budge. Panic set in as he pounded on the wood, shouting for help. Then the mirror, began to change. The reflection of the woman warped, her mouth twisted into a grotesque smile. Her hands pressed flat against the glass, as though she were trying to push through it. Josh screamed, backing away, but the woman's eyes never left him. Suddenly, a voice, low, guttural, whispered from the mirror, "Join me!" And before he could move, the glass rippled like water. Her hand reached out from the mirror, cold fingers wrapping around his wrist. He tried to pull away, but it was too late. The cold consumed him. He felt himself being dragged toward the mirror, toward her. When the neighbors found him the next morning, all that was left in the house was his reflection, trapped in the mirror, forever staring back at them with wide, terrified eyes. And the house? The house at the end of Morrow Lane? It stood still, waiting for the next curious soul to walk through its door.